Hi, this is Valdemar from Darwoft, a company in Argentina, and this is the presentation of our tool called Drumine that allow users to synchronize content and configuration between different Drupal environments. Intro. Here we are going to show you the flow of work in a normal day of work. Suppose you have two environments, prod and stage, and a user in prod environment create a block meet our team at 9 a.m. Later, another user creates the block next events on the stage environment. And after that, the same user decides to alter the theme of that block, overriding the TPL for that block. So, what we are expecting as a result from the previous steps. In the production environment, we are expecting to see the meet our team block in the cyber second as we show in the picture. On the other hand, in the stage environment, we are expecting to see the next 7 blocks in the cyber second, but with some difference in the CSS style. For example, the border at the title and the gray color. The block next 7 in stage environment looks great, so we decide to pass it to production environment. In order to do that, we decide to use the feature modules, and we create the feature at 10 a.m. Later, we install the module created that features in production. The question now is, how do you think the production page looks like? Obviously, we are expecting to find two blocks, the meet our team, already created in production environment, and the next 7 blocks that we just moved from stage to prod using features module. If you work enough time with Drupal, you will find that not always the result is the correct one. In the current example, you will find that the style created for our next 7 blocks is applied to the brown block, to the meet or team block. This is happening because tables in MySQL are working with auto-incremental IDs. When you create the meet or team block in production, it uses the block ID number 1. Later in stage, when you create the next 7 blocks, it uses the block ID number 1 because are different tables in different environments. When we move next events to prod environment, the next ID to use is the number 2. That is why the TPL is applied to the brown block. Here you can see in the databases how incremental IDs are working. At the top you can see the prod database, and at the bottom you can see the stage database. Note that the unique row in the stage database with ID number 1 is created in prod with ID number 2. Research. Our first step was to research about existing solutions. We found a lot of Drupal modules like features, feeds, node export, universal unique ID, etc. And we also found a tool called Migraine, developed in 2010, but is abandoned. But we also found that none of these modules solve the problem in a complete way. Actually, the most important thing we found is that this is a big and really complicated problem, and Drupal community has been working on this for many years, trying to find a way to sync configuration and content. Before continue, it's important to say that Drupal stores two things in the database: configuration and content. In Drupal sites, you can find a list and a table comparing different modules, and you will find that some modules like feature solve deploy config and deploy of code, but not the deploy of content, and the deployment module, for example. One way to face the problem is to use a combination of modules, so you can use features in combination with deploy module. Although none of the solutions are a complete solution. First, we can mention that you need to use several modules and a lot of configuration and a lot of knowledge. Secondly, you will face problems. For example, using features, we already described the problem with TPL in Drupal 7, but you will face another kind of problem. For example, the URL alias that are based on the node ID. Also, if you use filtering views based on taxonomies IDs or node IDs, etc. Finally, we know that Drupal 8 um, is doing a good job in order to fix this, but the Drupal 8 approach is to use the universal unique ID that if you create elements by hand in several environments, the universal unique ID will be different in those environments. I mean, you can create a view with a machine name myView by hand in two environments, and the universal unique ID will be different in those environments. All in all, our big question was if we can solve the problem from another point of view. Our solution. Our solution is based on the federated storage engine of MySQL. This storage engine is available beginning MySQL 5.0.3, and it is a storage engine that accesses data in tables of remote databases rather than in local tables. How it works? Suppose that you have a remote server with the IP, the server 1, and you create a table there. Then, in a local server, you create the same table but with a federated storage engine. That means that this table will not storage data, and each query that we perform against the federated table will be executed across the internet in the server 1. So, first step, we perform a query, select ID and name from test. Then the federated table asks for the server 1 to solve the query, and the server 1 returns the data with the result. Our solution will be the following. If we have two Drupal environments, production and stage, in two servers, we are going to have another database, the Drumine database, in a third server. The Drumine database will have a table in order to store sequence name and sequence current values. The Drupal production environment database will have the Drupal tables and also a federated table of the sequence. The Drupal stage environment database will have the Drupal tables and also a federated table of the sequence. The idea to have the Drumine database and the federated tables is that both the prod and stage databases of Drupal will be able to get the next ID for any sequence. This is an example of how it works. First, suppose you want to create a new block in the production environment, the block B. So, the second step will be, instead of use the auto incremental, execute a trigger in the before insert of the block table, and that trigger will be perform a select from the sequence federated table in order to know which is the next value of the sequence of blocks IDs. The federated table executes the query to the respective server. The result is returned from the server. In this case, the block ID number 6 is returned. Following, the value returned is used to override the auto-incremental value. So this is awesome. You can assign unique ID between several environments. Suppose that you create a block A with ID number 1 in production, then you create 4 blocks in stage. The data Drumine will be assigned the ID 2, 3, 4, and 5, and later in production you create the block B. Drumine will assign the ID number 6, so there is no overriding between IDs in different environments. This approach is good for move content from any environment to any other environment, but we also have some problems. The first one is that federated tables are slow if the tables are in different servers, and the second one is that sometimes we want to keep the same ID. For example, suppose you create a block C in stage and it was created with the ID number 2. Later, if you create by hand in production the block C, it's supposed to be the same block, so the normal thing is to assign the same ID, the number 2. The solution to the problem number 1 is to store the Drumine database and the Drupal production database in the same server. So we are going to experience some delays only in stage, dev, and local environments because we are using SSH tunnels. The solution to the problem number 2 is to design Drumine in order to not only have a sequence value and assigns ID from that sequence, but also to keep in memory which ID was assigned to which entity. So, for example, we can think in the following example. From one environment, you want to create the block C. Then the second step will be to ask Drumine for the next free ID. Suppose that Drumine returns the ID number 7. Then the block C is created with the block ID number 7. Later, from another environment, a user is trying to create a block, call it block C. The sixth step will, Drupal tells Drumine that he wants an ID to create the block C. Drumine do not return the next value of the sequence. Instead of that, Drumine remember that the block C was created before in another environment, and Drumine returns the ID is used for that block. the number 7. So the final step is to create the block C in another environment with the block ID number 7. With all this information, we start the creation of our tool, Drumine. You can think in Drumine as a two-step solution. First, we have a Drumine web app where you can create user accounts, create a company, create project for that company, and decide which architecture you want to use for your project. I mean, prod, stage, and dev environment, or only prod and local environments. The second part is a Drumine app, that is a Node.js app that will be installed in every server that has a Drupal environment on it. When you install the Drumine app in the Drupal servers, the Drumine app will take care of if it's the production server to create the Drumine database with the sequence values, and also to create triggers in the Drupal database in order to avoid the auto-incremental assignation for IDs. If you are installing the Drumine app in other server than production, for example in Stage, Drumine app will create triggers for the Drupal database and also SSH tunnels in order to solve connections. Okay, now we are going to see Drumine in action. As you can see, we have two environments, Stage and Prod. And now we are going to log in into the Drumine web app with an existing user. Here we choose my company. We need to create a company. Once we have a company, we can create projects. A name, a description, a picture. The most important thing here is the last one, where you can choose the architecture. We are going to use prod, stage, dev environment, and locals environments. Okay, so this is the Node.js app that is already installed in each Drupal server. As you can see, this is the list of my projects, and I don't have any environment yet. I choose production, and now I am going to complete the IP of the server, the IP of the server, the database name, the username, and password. Also, we need to choose a name for the Drumine database and click on create. So production is ready. We are going to also install in the same server stage environment. And that's all. Now, if we click in the compare button in stage environment, we are just seeing that we have a lot of blocks in production and in stage. I mean, both environments are the same. So if you click on compare, you will see a list of blocks in this case, and the color is green because we have the same blocks in both environments. So we are going to create a new block. Just with data, example data. And we are going to expose this block in the second bar. Here it is, the new block hello. As you can see, in production is not there. So we are going to refresh the block tab of Drumine, and you can see that we have a row in red, and clicking on the push button okay, the block was in production now with the same configuration, the same content. Okay, another test that we can do is to change something in the block. This time we are altering the block in the production environment. So this time what we are going to see is a row in yellow or in orange in order to let the user know that a specific block has some changes. And clicking on the push button from prod to the stage, we are going to sync that block, that specific block. So in stage, the block is there with the new changes that we did in prod environment. So now we can try with another example, a bit more complex, a taxonomy. So we are going to create a taxonomy in the stage environment, and let's say the countries taxonomy. And in order to do a complete example, we are going to add a custom field, let's say population. Just with the default options. Okay, now that we can have the taxonomy, we are going to add some terms. And also, after we have all the terms in this taxonomy, we are going to do this taxonomy, a hierarchical taxonomy. Here we go. Buenos Aires under Argentina and Santiago de Chile under Chile. Now what we are going to do is to go back to the Drumine app. We are just showing that the taxonomy is not there in production yet. So we move to the taxonomy tab in Drumine, and you can see in red that we have a taxonomy in stage but not in prod. Clicking on push button, we are going to pass the taxonomy to the prod environment, and just reloading the page and going to taxonomy, you can see that the taxonomy is there with the hierarchical structure and all the data that we create in the stage environment a minute ago. And you can see that the custom field is also there. So this is how Drumine works.
Hello! Darwoft wants to introduce you to the simplest, most effective, and complete mechanism of synchronization between Drupal environments. For years, Drupal's weakness has been its inability to synchronize content between different sites. How can you update changes from a development environment to a stage environment, and from a stage environment to a production environment? We update the code by using Subversion or Git. The problem lies in the content of the site, which is stored in the database. Blocks, views, panels, roles, content types, and all the content of Drupal. So far, the solutions available that range from repeating all the work manually to using features are not complete. Drumine allows you to synchronize content from an environment to another in both ways and to achieve the uniqueness of entities. Welcome to the future of Drupal. Welcome to
You can contact us. My email is waldemar.krumrich@darwoft.com and my Skype username is waldemar_krumrich. You can also contact us in our webpage www.darwoft.com and in the web of Drumine www.drumine.com. One of the most important questions we received in the DrupalCamp in Santiago de Chile was to know if Drumine can work together with features and deploy module. The answer is yes, because it's not the idea to replace those modules. Drumine can work together with features and Drumine can work together with deploy. Actually, the main goal of Drumine is to ensure the user that the same ID is using for the same elements across environments. So Drumine improves the way that features works. On the other hand, Drumine can do the work that is done by features and also can do the work that performs deploy. So it's optional. You can work only with Drumine, or you can work with Drumine and features and deploy.